Hello and welcome, fellow bookworms and film fans. Welcome to this week's episode of The Consented Narrative. I'm looking at The Silver Pigs by Lindsey Davis. Now, this one was bought for me by someone that I used to go to uni with, Russell Purnell. He bought this for me for my birthday because it is a detective series that he thought I'd really enjoy because I love detective series. Now, the difference with this one is it's set in 1989. And you're following Marcus Didius Falco, who is a detective in Greece there. Sorry, not Greece, Rome, I do apologise. A detective in Rome. And it's basically just him, and you've got the Romans and everything, and he goes off to England at one point, and it's very it's very enjoyable. Like, I sometimes find when things are set sort of like further and further back, I struggle with like the language, and the only thing I will say is 100% I struggle with the names. I really did. I had to like make a note of who was who, like what name belonged to who, and so on and so forth, because they'd be like, oh, so and so did, and I'm like, wait, is that the one that's the uncle? Is that the one that's the dad? Is that the one that's like the brother of the set? Like, I honestly, with the names, I just got confused. But I mean, I didn't study Rome that much, but I think it is kind of like a true look on sort of like how the British were working, how the Romans were working in England at the time, and it was a really enjoyable little detective story. So it basically follows the main guy who ends up running into, well, this girl runs into him, who is basically trying to avoid these people that are chasing her, and because of that, he gets involved in this huge plot where like people are stealing from the Roman government, but then I must admit, I was a little bit confused as to who was financing who, and obviously you had the emperor, and it was like he's in charge, but the son doesn't want, like that did confuse me a little bit, but it was really enjoyable, and it was really easy read as well, like considering that sometimes I had to go away and be like, oh, what does this mean? It was actually really enjoyable, and I probably will buy the second one. So basically, Marcus Didius Falco is the main protagonist, and he is the detective, and he goes off on these adventures. But you really, like, even though he's a bit of a cad, as it were, you still feel for him, like you genuinely do. And at one point when he's in England and he's like, oh yeah, no, I'm here, blah blah blah, and he's in these mines or whatever, and he's really struggling, and he might not survive, you're like, oh, I feel for him. Like, because sometimes when you had like flawed characters, you kind of like, they bring it on themselves. I didn't feel that with him. And the fact that like it starts off as sort of like he's just trying to save this girl from being captured by these two people that are chasing her, to then this whole political plot that he gets involved in, it's so brilliantly done how it kind of like scatters it throughout the plot. So you start off being like, oh, okay, we've come across him, this is what he's doing here, and so on and so forth, and then it goes further along and you're like, oh, okay, and this is in like connected to the so-and-so, and oh, right, okay, and so now it's gone back all the way to the emperor, okay, and who's protecting the emperor, right, okay, and you literally just sat there going, right, okay. So I would say, if you are going to read this book, do what I did and make a list of who the characters are and what their proclivities are in regards to like the plot, who they're related to, what the plot is, and things like that, because it did occasionally, I did have to go back and go, all right, so that's why he's spoken to so and so, because that, he's related to him. But it was just a good book. Like, it was a good detective story, and I genuinely occasionally forgot that we were in Rome, and so I thank Russell for giving me this book. I'm not going to spoil the plot and tell you sort of like how it ends, but it is a good story, and it does lead up for like the next one. But what I find, and as I've said this many times before, when you're reading a book series, you really want to conclude the book, but leave a little bit enough open so that if you want to continue, you can. But if you don't want to continue, you don't feel like you've been shortchanged. And this book does. It concludes the story while leaving open a little something extra for the next time. And I really appreciate that, and I love that in book series, because sometimes I don't want to continue them, and sometimes I'm like, do you know what, one is fine. But I think I will buy another one for this, and I can't thank him enough. So what I would say is check this out, get it at a library, Go to get it at Kindle, buy it paperback, hardback, however you like, and give it a go, and let me know below in the comments if you do end up enjoying this. Thank you so much for your continued support, and remember to always keep it contento.